Today we're going to be talking about a YA mystery novel titled Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. A few things before we get started. If you like content like this, bookish content, book reviews, cozy content, please consider subscribing to this channel. I'm going to try to get videos out once a week. You can also follow me on my socials. Links are in the description. Today I'm going to be talking about Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This is the first book in a series of YA mystery novels, and I finished it really quickly. I'm a slow reader, which I think I've mentioned before, and I finished this book in like a week, which is insane for me. Throughout the book, we follow Stevie, who was just accepted into Ellingham Academy, which is an exclusive private boarding school in Vermont. It was founded in the 1930s by a billionaire who owned a bunch of newspapers, Albert Ellingham. Him and his family, which included his wife and daughter, as well as a bunch of their staff, lived on the school premises. They have a big mansion there, and then the students lived in what were like formerly guest house on the property. All the students who go to this school are really gifted in one specific area. So there's someone who makes YouTube videos, there's a girl who is really into engineering, certain people who are like musical prodigies, and the main character that we follow, Stevie, is really into criminology. So back in the 1930s, when the school was first started, there was a kidnapping that happened, and the book actually switches between perspectives of present day following Stevie and back in the 1930s when this crime was committed. And we're following that crime, seeing what happens. It's actually currently a cold case, and Stevie, the main character, is really interested in it. It's how she gets accepted into this academy. And throughout present day, she's trying to solve the case, figure out who was the kidnapper and who did the murders. I really enjoyed this book, and I wrote down a list of the things that I liked about it. So for one, I really liked the alternating points of view. So like I said before, you're following Stevie, present day student at Ellingham Academy, as she's trying to solve this cold case, and just as she's kind of getting to know her peers at the school. And then you're also following the Ellingham case in real time in the 1930s, as told through anecdotes, and there are also some interviews interspersed in there, which is pretty cool. Another thing that I love about this book is the setting. I must say, it's giving me some nostalgia vibes as a boarding school student myself. In the past, not now, because I'm an adult, and adults don't go to boarding school. But it's giving me lots of nostalgia from my time at boarding school. The book also just beautifully depicts this place. They talk about the Greek statues that are all around the property. I feel like I was just really able to visualize the whole thing. And at the start of the book, I'm flipping through the pages right now, there is a pretty illustration. An illustration of the campus. Very basic, but I just love this. It's part of what drew me to the book. I kind of like to think of it as Hogwarts without the magic. So yeah, the setting, another great thing. I also enjoyed the pacing of this book. I was able to read it pretty quickly. There are some parts that are slower, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But for the most part, it was pretty quick to read. And there's also lots of little clues hidden throughout the book, especially in the parts from 1936, where they're talking about the case happening. So you could try to kind of solve the case while Stevie's solving the case. Another thing I really liked about the book was the way that the characters were written. Maureen Johnson does a really good job of giving each character their own distinct personality and also their own distinct look. I was really able to visualize what each of these characters looks like. Stevie is said to have like a pixie cut blonde hair, and she's got like thicker thighs, so you know she's not this like typical skinny girl. You've got Nate, who is this awkward teenager who's into writing sometimes, and then you've got Ellie, who's like this artistic girl who was living in France. She lived on a commune. She's got French poetry tattooed on her arm, which I don't know how that really happened because she's in high school, but she has a tattoo, whatever. But Stevie was definitely my favorite character. She is depicted as having anxiety, and I feel like it was really well written into the story, and very truthful, the way that the anxiety was portrayed. I would have loved if Maureen Johnson went even deeper into that aspect of Stevie. I think that was a bit of a missed opportunity there. I tabbed some pages, very few, but one that talks about Stevie's anxiety. So I'm going to read that real quick. People say depression lies. Anxiety is just stupid. It's unable to tell the difference between things that are actually scary, being buried alive, for example, and things that are not scary at all, being in bed under the covers. So I totally connected with that. I feel like that's it's so good. And I'm glad that it was in a YA book because I feel like anxiety is a lot more prevalent these days and it's not really talked about, especially coming from a boarding school background. I know how stressful things can be there and how anxiety can be, and certain people could just seem like they have everything put together. So showing that side of Stevie, I thought that was really special. Now to talk about the things that I wasn't so keen on for this book, which honestly is just nitpicky. I really enjoyed this book, but the ending was a little disappointing. It doesn't really have a resolution. It is the first book in a series, so I obviously have to read the rest of the series to know what happens. But I feel like even in series books, like Harry Potter, each book kind of has a resolution at the end, and this one really ends on a cliffhanger, so I just didn't get that. By no means let that stray you away from reading the book. It's totally worth the read, very quick. I would recommend maybe getting books 1 and 2 at the same time, and then just reading them sequentially, because you'll want to keep reading. The other thing that I didn't like so much, and this is really nitpicky, is that the pacing was slow at some times. I've watched a few other reviews and people talk about like the beginning being kind of slow, the middle picking up, then there being another slow moment, and then it picking up again. For me personally, the parts that I felt were slow paced were whenever we were in a scene that a lot of traveling was happening. In the very beginning, we see Stevie traveling to Ellingham Academy, and it just seems dragged out compared to the rest of the book. So that's really nitpicky, but if I had to pick something, that would be it. My overall rating for Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson is a full 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed this book and I'm super excited to read the next one in the series, which is The Vanishing Stair. There is a little bit of a sneak peek in the back of the book for the next in the series. I did not read that because I knew I would probably get disappointed that I couldn't keep reading. So I'm going to be getting that, and maybe I will review that as well on here. But if you're looking for a YA mystery, something that's set in an academia setting, this could be a great one to pick up. Also, the cover art, it's gorgeous. Part of why I bought this book was for the cover, this bright blue. It's looking great on Instagram, I must say. So yeah. Thanks so much for stopping by and watching me chat about this book. If you've read Truly Devious, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. You could also review the book on Goodreads. I do like reading reviews on Goodreads, so if you have a good one, please link it below. Love to check that out. And I will be back soon with another video. Stay cozy.